Hello and welcome to ThePrint. I'm Janaki Pande, and today we're here to talk about one of Bihar's upcoming universities called Pravaha, which has been founded by none other than one of the founding members of Ashoka and ISB, Dr. Pramath Raj Sinha, and Dr. Ajay Kumar, who is a physician, philanthropist.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
I think today's discussion is going to be about Pravaha. So, my first question would be to both of you. Bihar has produced some of India's brightest students, and yet a lot of those students don't stay back in Bihar. There's a lot of migration, they move out. Will Pravaha be addressing that? Is it trying to retain students in Bihar?
I think when we talk about migration of students from Bihar, I think that's always in pursuit of excellence in education, right? So the answer is yes and no, because Pravaha alone is not be able to going to completely address this issue of migration. We are acutely conscious of the fact that Pravaha is envisioned to set a template. And that template, to my mind, will serve two purposes. First, it should instill confidence in the minds of students and parents of Bihar that here is an institution at your doorstep which will provide you the best in class of the curriculum for higher education, will rope in the global level faculties for your university, and at the same time will create an ecosystem which will nurture your innate talent. That's the first part of our dream. But the second most important thing that's going to happen, to my mind, is that if we are able to set up this institution successfully with this intent, then it will also inspire other people in Bihar who are trying to work in the field of education, or for that matter, whoever so wants to contribute to Bihar. Because that will be a benchmark, that will be a template on which the entire educational landscape of Bihar in terms of higher education can be transformed.
If you look at a state of 130 million people and how many of them need education, is massive need beyond just people going out. So I would in fact flip it and say we would like to believe that this is an alternative to get a higher education of quality within the state. I would like to believe that we are doing this more for people who are getting left behind and don't have the wherewithal to go out, but still deserve a high quality education. This particularly, I think, impacts people who are slightly from underserved backgrounds, women in particular, because society still would like to keep them at home and not send them off to a Pune or a Bangalore. So I think I'm very excited about the fact that it provides an alternative in the state. And if you think about what ISB did to management education, it said, look, you don't have to go abroad for a high quality MBA. Similarly, you don't have to go outside Bihar for a high quality education. These institutions don't solve the scale problem. One institution can't. But what he talked about was what I often call the lighthouse effect, that you create a lighthouse project that it inspires everybody. I don't know if you've heard of the Bihar Museum in Bihar. Now, this has been built to truly international standards. Most people acknowledge that this is the best and most state-of-the-art museum in Patna. People are coming from abroad just to go to see the Bihar Museum. People are going to Patna and Bihar just to see the Bihar Museum. You know. Now, imagine what it does to that ecosystem. And when you go there, it's swarming with school children from Bihar, because the way they've built is they've created a arm for kids.
So, before we move ahead and talk about Pravaha itself, I want to hear your thoughts about what is the existing educational infrastructure in Bihar.
Yeah, so when you talk about the status of higher education in Bihar, we are focusing today on higher education, not on primary and secondary education, because historically I believe that primary and secondary education was excellent in Bihar and even today is excellent in Bihar. But unfortunately, we do not have any quality institution in Bihar. So what ails Bihar is that Bihar certainly does not lack talent. It lacks opportunities. Bihar does not lack ambition, but there is problem with the direction. Lots and lots of these young boys and girls have got a lot of aspirations and dream in their eyes, but don't have any clear path. And we have to ask this question, why? And the answer is very simple. We do not have higher educational institutions of uncompromising quality. Institutions which are built with real intent on a long-term basis to basically transform what I call in my medical language their genotypic potential into phenotypic realities. If we could provide that kind of ecosystem, I think that is something which is ailing the education in Bihar, can be addressed to a considerable extent. There are other variables which might be affecting the growth of higher education in Bihar, but that will be entering into the domain of criticism, which I want to avoid.
So, in some sense, Pravaha would be what ISB was in terms of even industry to the surrounding area and the city and the people looking for even employment, because ISB did generate that. It called people to come forth and set up the industry to then which would benefit from ISB.
Yeah, the only thing is that while you can make that correlation, the causality was slightly different. You also had a very dynamic chief minister and government that was attracting industry on the back of saying, look, I have a world-class institution. Or that whole area called Gachibowli suddenly had a lightning rod because it had this institution which everybody was talking about. And so that became fashionable to say, when Bill Gates came to Hyderabad, and of course it was Mr. Naidu who attracted him, he said, I want to be next to ISB. Infosys said, I want to put our campus next to ISB. Wipro said, and suddenly that whole area developed. Yeah. So I do think that many other factors will have to come together. Right. It can't just be the institution, because just an institution does not inspire people to locate businesses there. However, I think it's also true that it is one of the key ingredients of saying, look, I have sourced of local talent.
Right, of course. And you are, of course, from Bihar. Your family has recently celebrated 75 years of its literary magazine, and you've also opened a Hindi residency for students in Bihar. So, in some way, would you say Pravaha is your way of giving back to your state?
Of course, it is. In fact, often, so one good thing is that while I left Bihar, I am still very connected. I still have a home in Patna, my ancestral home in Rohtas district, lots of relatives, friends. So I've already remained in touch. And every time I go back, people would say, oh, you're making all these, helping with all these institutions around the country and the world, and why don't you do something here? And I was not, that's a very sort of enticing sort of invitation, but I also know how tough it is to do these things. So I've always hesitated. But now I have a partner in crime, and the timing is also right. So I thought it was about time to take that step. And I've been looking for doing something when this happened, and fortuitously the stars seemed to be aligned. So I think that I'm excited that this could be my way of giving back. Yes, I think I owe who I am today to the upbringing I got, the education I got, the values I was taught. The premium on education was really part of our DNA. It's generally there everywhere, but I think given the history of that region, you grow up uh, hearing stories of how great the past was, and Nalanda and Vikramshila and Odantapuri and all these great universities. So I think there's always been a very big focus on education. And that, I think, inspired me to do what I've done with my life. So I would really like to give back, yes.
I think I also want to ask you, how difficult is it to set up a university in India? And from the times of ISB and Ashoka to now Pravaha, have things changed? Are the loopholes still the same? Do you still have to jump through a lot of hoops to get done? I mean, to get something done?
It's very difficult. Have things changed? Yes. Have things changed for the better? I think so. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here. And ISB and Ashoka and many others would not have happened. So, yes, I do think that there are many more pathways and there's much more willingness to let people like us start and set up universities. The one other big thing that has changed, which has made ISB, Ashoka, and several others like Kriya, Plaksha, and so on possible, is philanthropy. People are giving more, right? In the old days, it was the Tatas and the Birlas who you heard about setting up colleges, BETS, TIFR, all of that. But now, people at all levels are willing to support students, scholarships, donations, grants, naming, all of that. So that's a big significant shift which has been correlated or the corollary to that is the ease of regulations. But it is still very difficult. And the reason it is difficult is that education has always been a public good around the world. So the government plays a very important role in education. It's regulated, heavily regulated. It's non-profit. So if you want to follow the rules, there are many, many rules to follow, and we are not the kind of people who will break any rules. These rules, because the government wants to make sure that quality is right, and because there have been lots of fly-by-night operators, if I may call them, who are not really focused on education, but more the commercials gain from education, the rules have been made to curb those worst offenders. So even if you have good intent, you have to conform to those rules that were made for the worst quality intent institution and so on. Now I understand why the government has to do that, because they have to guard the interests of our unsuspecting students, parents, right? But that is what creates the friction for well-minded and well-intentioned folks to do it. But like Dr. Kumar, I'm also like, look, these are there for a reason. Treat them as constraints and see what best you can do. And I think it is possible to do innovative and aspirational things despite those. We are looking to perhaps get the deemed to be university status from the UGC as a private initiative. That has only become possible in these last couple of years. So yes, those regulations have helped in encouraging folks like us to say, look, let's take a step even though it's still difficult.
And if I could elaborate upon this part of this story, I think when you are trying to build an institution of very high quality, obviously that will require a lot of funding. Now, because of the regulations which Pramath was talking, you can understand it from this way, that in such kind of institution, you should not be taking a lot of bank loans, right? You should not be inviting investors who will eventually make profit out of this institution. You need either your own seed money or philanthropists who are ready to donate their money to build up such kind of institution. That makes a huge difference, and that ensures that the student's career and future is not put to any jeopardy. I think that's big change which has taken place.
Yeah.
And that's for welcome. That should be welcome.
But what convinced you that what Bihar needed today was a new university and not, a hospital or any other thing which could have also, philanthropy has so many outfits. Why a university?
Somehow I knew that this question was coming to me because I am a doctor. Why should I not build a hospital? I think whenever you embark upon a journey to set up something, to do something for the society, I think there are two important things that you always consider. First, what is your core competence? And second, what is the need of the place? So when we look at this whole thing from these two perspectives, I think I realized that I graduated as an MBBS in 1978. So 48 years of my existence in practice of medicine. I did not evolve only as a successful physician and a diabetologist. I spent my entire career in teaching in Patna Medical College, and then subsequently I got engaged with diabetes teaching, not only within the country but across the world. And in the same time frame, I had great insight into the medical research. I have conducted large number of medical research phase 2 and phase 3 trials with almost all modern companies across the world like Novo Nordisk, Eli Lilly, Boehringer Ingelheim. I have been on the advisory panel of all of them. And when you talk about research insights, it's not only conducting the phase 3 trials. In our international meetings, in the advisory board meetings, we have to design the trials. We have to design the protocol. We have to execute the studies. We have to analyze the data, then bring the new products into the market, and then finally do the launch and the marketing. So there is a great insight in terms of teaching, research, and its outcome. So that's my core competence, and I thought that I can build an institution. When it comes to the need, I think way back in early 2000, I used to go to my village almost every week for one reason or the other. And I used to talk about people that I want to do something. My father was a freedom fighter and ex-MLA. He died in 2004. After that, I actually went and talked to people that I want to do something. What should I do? Few of them talked about starting the hospital. But majority, you would be surprised to know, that came out that we don't have any good school here. And there are 75% of the families in the rural area where even first generation of students have not entered into the classroom, in a worthwhile classroom. They might get admission into a government school, drop out after 1, 2, 3 years of education and get engaged in the agricultural practices. So when I came back from there, the thought struck to me that I think the need of the place is not only a hospital, because healthcare has in any case developed. By then we had a government in Bihar which had taken a lot of steps to improve the healthcare system, even to the primary level. But education in that remote area was absolutely abysmal. And that spurred that thought inside me that whenever I do something, I'll do for education. And that was the birth of my first school in 2007, another school in 2020, and now I'm up for this university.
Now that there's an institution coming up, as somebody who has, nurtured ISB and Ashoka right from the start, what are the lessons that you'd say you've learned from both of these, or lessons or mistakes that you'd rather avoid for Pravaha?
The biggest lesson that uh, I think I've taken away is that education at the higher ed level is actually not about the curriculum or the program or the schools. It's actually about unlocking the true potential of a young adult. And that's different from school education, that partly does that too, but during that period you are doing a lot of spoon feeding, because you do need that person to know that 2 plus 2 equals 4, or that the earth moves around the sun and so on. So you're teaching them a lot of facts and giving them a lot of knowledge that they need to be a fully functional human being while developing their other faculties. But actually higher education is really about you discovering yourself. Uh, Now, if that is the case, then the second big learning is that there are many ways of making people discover themselves. But if you're going to do it in this model of classroom and teacher and peer group, then you need two things. You need uh, fellow students who are as good or better than you, who will challenge you and who will make you feel humbled. So that will motivate you to do better in a positive way. And you need teachers who inspire you, teachers who make something happen to you, make a light bulb go off. It's less important that I'm studying physics or thermodynamics. It's more important that I have a teacher like him, so that every time I attend a class by him, I go like, wow, I actually learned something today, or that improved my understanding of myself or the world, or look, I'm so excited by what I heard today that I might do something about this. Now the challenge is, if you know all this, then how do you replicate it? How do you make it happen? Because all of us have attended educational institutions, we all get this insight, I'm sure you have from your education, but we don't get that quality of education. So we always lament the fact that yes, we know this, but there's a gap between that understanding and the reality. I think the big learning for me has been, how do you make that happen even in a new institution from day one? How do you get a certain quality of students and a certain quality of faculty? My belief is that you put them under a tree, magic will happen. You don't need campus, buildings, all of that. You just get a cohort of committed, bright students and faculty who will truly inspire them. That's the learning, and I don't want to give away my trade secrets, but happy to, though I'm joking. How you get those faculty members to the location in Vaishali district, in the Loma village where we are building our campus, which is an hour and a half from Patna, is something that I know how to do based on the learnings. Most people are skeptical about that aspect because they think curriculum first, and so they say, oh, there's a curriculum to be delivered and I need faculty to come and live there to deliver that curriculum, and let me go and catch whoever I can who's willing to live there. Now if he and I are not willing to live in that village, what is our chance of getting a high quality faculty to go there? But I have a hack for that, in the words of the current generation. That's what is the big learning. Now, we've made many mistakes. You make mistakes as you go along. I think the mistakes I've made have all had to do with compromising on quality. So, you are missing a staff member or a faculty member and you really need them now. So you make a compromise and you hire somebody who's a notch below what you would have hired. We are facing some funding constraints right now. He's building the building and uh, he's saying, look, I can get a loan. My thing is, the moment you burden an educational institution with a loan and interest payments, you start off on the back foot. Then you say, oh my God, I have to now meet the loan payments. I'm okay to stop construction, but I don't want to be in a situation where I'm having sleepless nights that, oh, I couldn't get enough students to generate enough revenues to meet my EMI commitments. So those are some of the mistakes that we made in the past that we have learned from. And we do want to make sure that you don't repeat those mistakes if you can help it, or even if you have to take a loan, that you do it with the adequate safeguards and so on in place, knowing full well that it should not compromise the quality of what we are building.
I know you said that you will not share the trade secret, but if I may ask, how do you convince faculty to come and live 1.5 hours away from an airport?
So you don't. You convince them to come for a short period of time. And you over-index on the quality of the faculty member. Suppose I want you to come and be a faculty member at Prabaha. The discussion I will have with you is not to say, leave your print job, move to Loma, tell me what it will take, how much salary do you want, what conditions do you want, and I'll try to create that for you, and I will never be able to do that. But what I can have the conversation with you about is, how much time are you committed to or excited about going and teaching a course on journalism to students in Bihar who most need it? You will start talking to me, right? You'll say, look, I want to give back. I could give back to my Aurobindo ashram, or Bihar needs me more. And I can convince you that Bihar needs you more, and you'll be convinced of that, no argument. I'll tell you, I say this with conviction because I set up something called the Naropa Fellowship in Leh Ladakh. I have to tell you right here, right now, that it was the easiest to get faculty to come and teach in Leh. Because everybody wants to teach in Leh. The idea of going and teaching in Leh is so exciting. And of course, we would pay them, we would take care of them. It's not like we are asking them to do it gratis. Yeah. And even in Loma, the conditions in which you will live will be that you don't compromise on that, right? We fly you down to Patna, we pick you up from the airport, we drive you in an air-conditioned, safe car there, we keep you in a clean place, we take care of all of your needs, you don't fall sick, you get all the support that you need. But those 1 week, we take every bit of teaching out of you and inspiration out you for our students. So that's the trade secret. And there, this is not something totally innovative. This is called the block teaching model. Many colleges and universities are actually built on this model. We don't know about them because we are always aware that you take a course for 1 semester,
full time,
and there's a full-time faculty member, they live on campus. Well, here also the faculty member is on campus, they are there full-time for the duration that you need them full-time. I don't need you for the rest of the 51
and
weeks
those who
of
are
the year.
willing to do such.
Yeah, and there are many people who are willing to go.
Now that we've spoken so much about, curriculums being slightly less important than the faculty itself, it's funny to talk about AI.
Yes.
But also, I think my generation and just people in general who are entering the job market now, who are mid-career, who are experiencing the AI wave, they're worried about what it's going to do to academia, what it's doing to their jobs, how it will impact, people. There is a certain AI readiness that the industry expects from students. And there's also so much, data studies and just not just, AI, but also, what you can do with AI. And so as Pravaha's, curriculum is still taking shape, you still have inspiring faculty that you're calling. How do you incorporate AI into this, emerging curriculum today?
So good, you've answered my question already, our question already. Because it's a new, clean sheet, zero legacy, and we have the insight that you just gave us, AI will be in everything.
What does that mean?
That means that in the way we run our admissions process for our staff, we'll use AI to scan applications, to answer queries of prospective applicants, which is what all universities are trying to do. And that's just a small example of saying university administration will be all AI enabled. You move to the classroom, we will teach students to use the best tools that are available to solve problems, right? See, today people are using AI for gimmicky stuff, right? They are having fun with it, or they are using it to clean up an email or to summarize a paper and so on, do their assignments. But these students have to understand that this is such a powerful tool that you can actually take some real problems that the world is facing and use these tools to solve those problems. And by the way, the world is still going to need problem solvers.
Yeah, I think every scientific development which has taken place has been brought by human beings. And these tools, scientific tools, have never overpowered human beings, right? They will always remain subservient to the human mind. So will be the case with the artificial intelligence. I am sure artificial intelligence has taken a center stage today, but it will also be remaining subservient to the human brain. And that's what we are actually capitalizing on. We will teach artificial intelligence, we will utilize them to the best of the potential, and we will try to integrate all the local problems, whether it is related to agriculture, whether it is related to transport or management, and limitless possibilities. And then try our incubation, studios in the university to spur that research amongst the students, that they should bring newer avenues of the artificial intelligence. That will be real legacy, real contribution to the society. That we can always build upon a scientific platform and just get it better and better in future. I'm sure this is possible.
Right. And I think, you've had this formula for Ashoka as well, where you begin first with a fellowship and then move towards, a more traditional course setup. Does Pravaha also plan something similar?
Yes, indeed. So that formula worked for Ashoka, it worked for Plaksha as well. There's another design-based university in Ahmedabad called Anant National University. That formula was used there also. So yes, we are starting what we are calling the Pravaha Fellowship.
Can I ask why a fellowship?
Look, there is a lead time to getting the formal approvals to be a legitimate university that grants degrees. There's an approval process that requires a lot of work on the part of us as the proposers of the idea, on the part of the government to do due diligence and so on. Now, that essentially means that you wait for 2 years, roughly 18 months to 2 years, to get those approvals till you get going. You can't even market a program. Then you start offering degree programs. Your first graduate comes out 4 or 8 years out. Undergraduate comes out 6 years out, sorry. If you do a 4-year program, 2 years plus 4 years. Now, education is all about outcomes. So before you see the quality of our graduates, it's too long. And yes, we'll keep marketing and saying, no, we are great, come here, look at our faculty, infrastructure, and so on. A good way to short circuit that and to get positive word of mouth. Education is also only about word of mouth. I can do whatever marketing I do, but you will hear about Ashoka from one of your friends who went there and then say, yeah, this is a place to go to. So what the fellowship does is it allows us to do what looks like a full-time 1-year program without giving a degree, and therefore without having to have any approvals and regulatory compliance. Not that we want to do anything that is not the best for students, but it gives you the freedom to start now without waiting. Second, it also allows you to get your product out in 1 year and prove that yes, we are doing it in Bihar, high quality, it's possible. It's also possible to get that student, and then the student gets a job. So recruiters say, hey, I recruited from this institution. So all that gets the ball rolling and the flywheel moving much faster, very quickly. So this is another hack, if you will. The visiting faculty plus this is really the hack for setting a very high bar from day one. And as you know, these fellowships are then fully funded. So the best students one can get by cherry picking and saying, look, from day one I have the best students. I told you the faculty model, you put that together. Then this model gets operationalized that we talked about. So it has all these advantages of being a great pilot for the final institution that is to come. This becomes the trailer of the main movie.
Right. And I would also ask that I think every institution has a different benchmark of what it means to be successful. And it also depends on where that institution it is, what that institution sets out to do. So in the case of Pravaha, what does success mean? Like in 10 years down the line, what has to happen for you to say ki we have succeeded?
Yeah, so responding to this part of your question, I'll split it into two parts. Let's first talk about what we expect from our fellows, as Pramath was just mentioning. Within that stipulated period of 1 year time, imagine empowering a young boy or a girl with every single tool which will not make him a graduate of any particular stream, but will empower that person with every skill which is needed to be successful in any walk of life. Whether it is your communication, your leadership ability, your entrepreneurship ability, your ability to deal with all the gadgets, your ability to produce everything digitally, your ability to think beyond what a normal graduate would think of. So that's the way you are empowering an individual without providing the degree. But almost every single tool which is necessary for a person or a fellow to stand out and conquer the world. 5 years down the line, what do we expect? I think the best that we can expect is that now the graduates coming out from Pravaha, they become the mainstream in terms of government administration, in terms of business leadership, in terms of setting up, their own ecosystem of new ventures, what we call as startups in the modern language. And if that society of Bihar and maybe around these places is now known as mostly dominated by products coming out from Pravaha, who are doing setting up their businesses, who are mostly seen visible in the various business houses and in the administration, I think that's one yardstick of success. And another way I look at it is that when these graduates are coming out from Pravaha, then they are the ones who are starting contributing to society. They are building institutions, they are in industry, they are in education. So if we could create a system where we produce such graduates who are ready to do something for the society, they are not job seekers, they are job providers, they are creative. And I think that's the best way a Sanskrit sentence says that Siksha Dadati Vinayam, Vinayadi Ati Patratam, which means education provides humility. And humility provides wisdom. And that wisdom creates creativity. So, if we could provide an education system which makes individuals who can conquer everything, it's not only their subject graduation which matters, it is the skill, it's the personality, and that's what exactly this teaching model talks about.
What makes Pravaha different? How will you, how are parents and students to understand that this is not just another new university that's going to come up and flail in a couple of months?
Yeah, I think they would be right to doubt our chances of success based on what you're saying. I think the only thing we can offer them is the assurance that there are a certain set of people behind it who know what they're doing and who have high standards. So, if you look at our governing council, for example, if you look at the individuals who are so far behind it, I think all of them are people who have been very successful in their fields. They have the humility that Dr. Kumar is talking about. The intent is good, noble, right to give back. Uh, and then there are some people like me who also have a track record, and you just interrogated me and I put out my best foot in terms of what we can do. So hopefully people will watch and say, yeah, this makes sense. They still can't give me a grade yet because this is also intent and context changes. So it might have worked in Hyderabad and Sonipat may not work in Loma, and we are very conscious of that. That's where the humility is, that be wise enough to understand that you can't plonk an ISB into Loma.
And honestly speaking, we are not competent enough to judge the success or the lack of it of the institutions that you talked about. But one thing is very clear, that when you are talking about an institution, there could be two ways to look at it. One is built by people who have a dream, who have a passion to run that institution and to ensure that this comes out as the best of the institution. That is what obviously is guiding inspiration and source behind Pravaha. But the names that you took, basically speaking in very simple term, they are nobody's babies, right? They are set up by governments or other institutions where you have a stakeholders, where people are taking salaries, they are transferred, they have their limited time frame to work. So their passion, their commitment to the institution may not be to that level where we expect our institution to have.
Do you envisage Pravaha to develop an identity of itself? Will it be an arts-centric, university? Will it be a tech-centric university? Is there any identity in your mind?
The identity that I have in my mind is that it should be one of the best universities in India, which happens to be in Bihar. I don't think universities need to be boxed, should be boxed. In fact, the word university has this sense of the universe. So honestly, I don't know where it will evolve. I'm not trying to be cute.
Education is an evolutionary process.
It's a
right?
Pravaha.
It cannot be static. It has to be Pravaha. Right? What we certainly want to ensure that we will teach what is best in the class in the contemporary world and also have futuristic bend of mind. And we will keep evolving with the time frame, with the situation. Whatever is best needed for the society, for the world, today we have lots of issues related to climate actions, urban planning. We will try to teach that. Tomorrow, if that is not the demanding thing for the society, we will drop it. So I think it has to be a pravaha. Let knowledge flow, let pravaha flow. I think that's the way we can sum it up.
I think the most promising students in Bihar in the future should all be saying, whether I apply anywhere else or not, I have to apply to Prabha. I mean, I'm taking his very aspirational and noble idea to a very transactional level and saying, how I judge the success is that the brightest students in Bihar, they will aspire to get into an IIT or an AIMS or go to Delhi University or go to Oxford or Stanford. But they'll say, look, while I'm applying to all these places, I think I should also apply to Prabaha. That's the mindset. They should feel that there is an equivalent right here at home, either because it's my refuge if I don't get into all these aspirational places, which doesn't mean they will get in here, but that's there. Or that, look, if I get in here, I don't need to go there. And as long as we are seen as that, I think that would have been a huge achievement. Because today, people are not thinking that at all. In fact, they are saying, oh my God, if I get stuck here, my career is finished, my future is over, I have to get out. We want people to see this as a first option, a necessary option, even if not the best option. Have to apply to this institution.
Right. I think thank you so much for sharing your passion about creating Pravaha and also your trade secrets. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.